Again, everybody, I'm not going to repeat my whole entire intro, but hey, welcome. We're going to go over all the stuff. If you want to go over the webinar, if you have a question or you want to raise your hand, just go ahead and click the little button on the webinar interface, and that'll tell us that you have a question. And then if you want to ask a question, just go down here, enter your question in here, and hit the send button, and that'll send it to all the panelists, and we can answer those questions as we get into it. As I said, the agenda is dBASE for DOS dead. Nope. What is needed for dBASE to work, dbDOS to work, what's the pricing, what's the demonstration, and also questions that you may have. So as I was saying, is dBASE for DOS dead? No, it's not on our watch. We've done a lot of work on this. dbDOS really allows our community that's using the DOS-based products to continue using dBASE for DOS on Windows, the latest and greatest hardware today, whether it's 32-bit or 64-bit operating systems. It has an emulation part of it. There's multiple parts to dbDOS. One part of it is the emulation that allows us to run the actual product, and then the other parts of it are things that make it easy to use and fast and all that kind of stuff. dbDOS does not change any of your programs, so we don't change anything that you're doing, we don't modify anything that you're doing, we don't change any of your data, we don't change any of your programs, we don't change any of your applications. Everything that you've created with dBASE for DOS stays the same. All we're doing is giving you the ability to run that product on the latest operating systems from Windows. So keep that in mind, that dbDOS itself does not change anything on your system. It doesn't change any of the underlying dBASE programs, data, or applications that you're creating. dbDOS will allow you, though, to change your programs. If you want to modify your programs, if you want to continue to write your programs, if you want to continue to compile your programs, absolutely. You can do with it whatever you want, and it works just like it was back in the DOS days. You can do with the product, you can do with it whatever you want, and you can make changes to the DOS dBASE programs all day long, and I'm actually going to show an example of that during one of the demonstrations as we go forward. What do you need for dbDOS to work? Well, you need to have dBASE 3, dBASE 4, or dBASE 5 for DOS. You have to have your own copy of that. We don't supply you with a copy of that. You have to either have your executables, and that's either a .exe, a .com, or a .bat, or you have to have your program files. If you're in dBASE 3, you have to have your program files, and of course you have to have your data. Now, we do make available to you, if you don't have dBASE 5 for DOS, we do make that available to you through purchase of the latest version of dBASE 2.8 for Windows. On the CD, when you buy the CD, you get the copy of all of the old programs. So we have dbDOS, we have dBASE 5 for DOS included in the CD version of the product. And since you're buying it and you're going to buy it with dbDOS, you can get the upgrade price of $2.99. So if you don't have dBASE for DOS 5 and you want dBASE for DOS 5, you don't have it, we can make it available to you by purchasing the 2.8 version. We'll give you the upgrade price when you buy dbDOS with it, and that way you can get a copy of it. You also need, right now, a Windows machine. You need a Windows XP machine. Even though it still has a DOS stack, we do a couple of things that make running on XP a little bit easier and simpler. Windows Vista 32 or 64, Windows 7 32 or 64, or Windows Server 2008 32 or 64. So you need to have one of those operating systems basically to have to have this to work on your on the system. We are going to talk a little bit more about how to get this to work, and I'm going to show a demonstration of moving the files in the demos just so you can see how you have to do it. Probably the most difficult part of getting dbDOS to work for anybody at this particular moment in time is going to your old machines and where you have your data and where you have your programs and where you have your applications, and actually getting them converted or moved from the old box to the new box. And I'm going to show one example of doing that today, but there's many ways to do that process. But that is probably the hardest part about dbDOS, is just getting your old programs on your new hardware. Once you get that, it's pretty straightforward, as you'll see here in a few minutes. Pricing. dbDOS owners, first thing is if you bought dbDOS 1.0, you get 1.1 free of charge, of course. There are free upgrades all the way up to 2.0. So if you have dbDOS 1.0 or you purchase 1.1 and we make any updates, changes, or anything like that, you'll automatically get updated free of charge. And that's just the way it works for the product. The product itself is $99. And that is for the download. You can go right into the shop site, put in the credit card, 5 seconds later, 10 seconds later, you go through the process. A few minutes later, you get an email from us with your key, you download the software, and I'm going to go through the install to show you how it works, but it's really 5 minutes or less and you're on your way. We do have a CD with the quick start guide in it, and and the CD itself, $19.95. That's of course in U.S. and the shipping is extra depending on where you want us to ship it. Now we do include the quick start guide, the FAQ, and all that kind of stuff. We do include that in the docs. So, you know, if you download it, you have the material. If you want a printed material, that's where you have to basically purchase it with the CD. dbDOS, how is it licensed? That is another question that we get all the time, and this is pretty straightforward. It's a per user license, and it works just like the dBASE license does. Actually, if I purchase dbDOS and I have 4 machines surrounding me right now, I can use dbDOS on all 4 of those machines because I'm the only user using that product. If, however, I have somebody like Paul McGee or Alonda come into my office and they use my computers also using dbDOS, then I would need to have 3 licenses because each user needs to be licensed to run it. I can have it on multiple machines as long as I'm the only one using it. I'm not using it at the same time. But if I have multiple machines and multiple people using it, or one machine with multiple people using it, I have to have multiple licenses of the product. Now, we do offer a discount on multiples. So if you buy 10 copies, you get a discount on the price, and it goes up, you know, from there if we want to go down that path. And you can talk to sales about that and ask the questions about that. So, you know, if you have a situation where you have a group of people that use dBASE and they all use it, let's say there's 10 people in there, each one of those people would need a copy of dbDOS. Now, if each one of those people have 3 machines, they only need 1 copy as long as they install it on those machines and they're the only ones using it. So I hope that makes sense, and if it doesn't, go ahead and put the questions in and we'll answer those throughout, as I said before. Again, I just want to review this. Now, if you have a question, put up your hand and we'll take a look at what's going on with the hands, and then just click on that little icon, and if you have a question, just type in your question and hit the send button, and that'll go ahead and send the questions to us at that particular moment in time. So let's talk about what I'm going to show you as far as the demonstration is concerned. So what we're going to go over today is moving your dBASE for DOS to Windows 7. And I'm going to do that using multiple machines to show you how that's done. The second example I'm going to show you is installing the product. It should only take about 2 or 3 minutes to install, so it's not that big of a deal, but I want to just show people how easy it is to install this product and get it running and working. We're then going to create a configuration with the wizard, the new wizard interface that we added in 1.1, and then I'm going to show you how to create a configuration with the single page. This was how we did it in 1.0. We had a lot of people ask for an easier way to do it, so we added the wizard interface, and so far the people who have used the wizard interface have really enjoyed that interface and has told us that that's a good way of going about it. So, but we've left both ways in there, and when you get a little bit more advanced and you're used to making configurations, then going into the single page is very fast, and it doesn't take as many steps, it doesn't feel like, and I'll show you the difference between those. Also, we're then going to run some dBASE 5, and I'll show you some examples of running dBASE 5 and doing some stuff with that. And then we're going to go into advanced options at the end of that, and that's when we'll get into edit, compile, and work with dbDOS 1.1 and how to use it in a kind of in a day of the life kind of situation where I'm actually going to be using it in a normal type approach. And then, of course, use of bat files. How do you do it? Why do you do it? And what's the difference between the configurations, and why would I do that for various reasons in that. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and escape out of my presentation, and I'm going to minimize this. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change presenters to my other box. And here in a second, you should be seeing my other box. And show my screen. So now you should see a screen with my volcano in the background. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to now plug in a flash drive. Now this is on a Windows XP box, and I'm going to plug in my flash drive as we get going. Now, as I was saying, down here we have, as my flash drive comes up and it gets recognized by the system, and that it'll be popping up here in a second. But as the flash drive comes up, I actually have dBASE out in directories on my box right now, on my C drive. And if you look on my C drive, I have something called dBASE data, and that's where all the programs are inside of here. And I also have something called dBASE old, and this is where all of my programs are located. So I need to get those off of this machine, this Windows XP machine, and I need to get them onto my brand new Windows 7 64-bit Home Edition machine. So to do that, I'm on this machine. I've got my flash drive set up, or my little thumb drive set up, which is located on D. And now I'm going to come in and I'm going to go up to my C prompt, and there's the two directories that I want, dBASE data and dBASE old. I'm going to right mouse click on that, and it's going to bring up my context menu, and I'm going to say copy. I'm then going to go into my D prompt, right mouse click, and say paste. So what this is going to do is this will copy those files from my C directory onto my thumb drive. Now, there's an added benefit to this, just as a side note. If you have not backed up your programs and your data and your applications in a very long time, this is backing up your programs, data, and applications. So by moving the product from the old machine to the new machine and making a backup of it, you're actually making a backup of your product, and that's a good thing in case some problem or some issue arises down the road. So now that I have those transferred over, I'm now going to come in and I'm going to go to my D drive, which is a removable disk. I'm going to right mouse click on it, and I'm going to say eject. Now I'm going to get a little problem right there, and I'll go ahead and hit enter, but I can go ahead and pop out my thumb drive. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back over to my other screen, and I'm going to come back in here, and I will become the presenter again. And as you should see here, you should see my Windows screen in the background again. So now I have my thumb drive with those files on it. So now I'm going to plug this into my Windows 7 64-bit Home Edition. And here in a second, we should see that I have this thumb drive will load up here in a second, and I will have these things. So I don't want to do that, so I'll just cancel out of there. And here in a second, we should have our thumb drive up. And there's my F removable disk. And if you notice, there are my two directories that I copied on from my other box, my XP box, and now I'm bringing it into onto this Windows 7 machine. So I'm going to go ahead and select both of those. I can hit the Control A, which will select everything in the context window, and I can right mouse click on it then and hit the copy, and then right mouse click on it, and we're going to go into the C drive. And I'm just going to go ahead and right mouse click and say paste. What you'll see is this will copy it over. And now down at the bottom I have my two directories. I have my dBASE old, and if I go back to my C directory, I'll have my dBASE data right there my dBASE data with everything inside of there. So now I'm back. I've got everything converted over. If I want to come out to that removable drive, I can go ahead and hit the eject button, and it'll say, hey, you can now remove that removable drive from your machine. So I'll just go ahead and get rid of that. So that is the first step in what you have to do to get dbDOS to work. You have to get your old applications, your programs, and your dBASE programs over to the new box so that you can use it properly and then start using the product. So now that we've done that, the next thing I want to do is I want to install dbDOS, because now that's what the next step in this process is. So on my desktop right now, I have something called the installer, and I'm going to double click on that. Now the first thing that's going to come up, and it's going to give you a user account control. This is part of the Windows 7, Windows Vista approach, making sure that you, the user, understand that you're going to be installing something on the machine. So the next thing you want to do with this is go ahead and hit the yes button. This will kick off the actual installer. Now the installer is very straightforward and very easy to use. As you go into it, you'll notice that it just basically gives you a description of what you're doing. You're going to be installing dbDOS 1.1. You hit the next button. It then displays the license agreement. Go ahead and read the license agreement. It's fairly straightforward. It explains it's a user license and all of the things around it. Accept the terms of the user license and hit the next key. Now this is where I'm going to have to pause the screen because I've got to type in my serial number for the product, and I don't really want you guys to actually have that serial number since that would be giving away the product free. So I'm going to go ahead and pause my screen. I'm going to make sure that you can't see anything, and you can't because I'm watching the screen as well. So now I'm going to type in my serial number, and as I do that, we will do this. And of course, if you guys have never presented to somebody in the past, like on a webinar or something like that, one of the things when you're typing in the key, make sure that you do not say the key as you're typing it in. That's almost like giving it away free. I almost did that myself right there. Now, as you can see on the screen now, I'm past that screen. The next screen just basically reviews what you've already done. It basically shows you what you've done in that process. So it says, hey, we're going to be installing this in the dBASE dbDOS directory. It's under Mike Roslog. It's going to take up this much space. It's very, very small. Now, some people ask, hey, is there a difference between running, let's say, a virtual machine like XP and, you know, if I have Windows 7 Ultimate, is this really a value to me? I think it is because it's very small. It's very lightweight. It takes up very little memory as far as the system is concerned. When you run a virtual machine of XP, you have the full operating system running on there. It takes up a lot more resources. It slows down your machine. This one definitely does not take up much room or much space. So once we've reviewed what we want to do, we go ahead and hit the next key, and as you can see, it's installing it. Now, at the end of it, you'll see that there is a finish button, but it also has a check mark between, do you want to run the dbDOS config right now? And I do. But there's a couple of things that we'll be talking about when we do that. So let's go ahead and hit finished on here. And the first thing you'll notice is it pops up into the configuration manager. Now, one of the big comments that we got back from many, many users with dbDOS 1.0 was the fact that how do I save these? How do I manage the configurations? Now, if you are a dbDOS 1.0 user, you cannot use the shortcuts that you created with 1.0. We had to change the format to simplify a couple of things and to move things around. So if you have 1.0 installed, just put those shortcuts in the trash can and delete them and recreate them from scratch. It's just quicker and easier to do that, and we've done a lot of changes to the file. So the first thing you see in the configuration file is I can go to a new configuration, I can import a configuration, or I can refresh my configurations. At times, if you have a lot of configurations and you've been deleting and modifying and doing all that kind of stuff, you may need to refresh your list. And then, of course, I have the exit from here. Now, I want to go ahead and create a really quick configuration for the dBASE that I just copied onto my machine. So remember, we put in this dBASE old right here with all of our programs in here. And one of the things that most people do on the old days was they changed their name of dBASE.exe. They actually renamed that product to do.exe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to copy the dBASE.exe. And now this is in my Windows Explorer, and I'm going to right mouse click and say paste. You'll notice that I get a copy of my executable. Everything looks the same. They're the same size as far as that's concerned. I'm going to click on my name, and then I'm just going to type in the word do and hit enter. And now I have a do.exe inside of here, which is the same as dBASE, and it will run and function properly just like it was if it was named dBASE. Now on a Windows application, that may not be the same case, but in a DOS application, you can definitely do what I just did, and the product will work and just like it was before. Now I want to run that do executable. I want to run that one, so I'm going to create a configuration to run that do executable, which is dBASE for DOS 5. So let's go ahead and minimize. First thing we're going to do is say new configuration. And the first thing it asks for is, hey, can you tell me what this configuration name is? Now this name is important because it's going to be the name on the shortcut in the system. So what I want to call this is dBASE 5. And then my description, this is how I'm going to tell my configurations apart. This is located in dBASE old directory. So I know that that's the one that I'm creating. Now, as you can see, I'm in the wizard right now. This is the wizard format. As you can see up at the top, it says Configuration Manager Wizard. So I can see right there that it's the wizard format. I also have something down here called the Advance button. This will take you to the single page approach to building a configuration. At any time, you can go back and forth between the two. So if I hit the Advance button, there's the single page. If I hit the Wizard button, I'm back into my Wizard approach then. Another thing to highlight, up at the top, you'll see this little line that says How to Use Configuration Wizard video. If you click on that, it'll go through about a 20-minute video going through each one of the options that's in the wizard. If you notice when I go to Advanced, you'll notice that How to Use the Advanced Configuration screen video. It'll show you how to use and go through all the steps that you have to do to run the application. So we've made sure that we have the videos actually installed with the machine, so you don't have to download anything. You don't have to be on the web. You can just click them, and then as long as you have a Windows, a Vista or greater machine, it's going to pop off, and those videos are going to run just like you would expect. So now that we have our configuration name and description put in there, we want to go next. The next thing it's going to ask us is, what kind of configuration do you want to create? Do you want to create a .exe, a .com, or a .bat, B-A-T? Or do you want to create a command prompt? And the difference between the two is one is going to take you right to the program and execute it. The other one's going to take you to a command prompt where you can do with it whatever you want. So I want to go ahead, I just want to run do.exe. I want to see that run. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the next button on the executable. Now when it comes in, it's going to say, hey, select your application. Now remember, because you can make a configuration that goes to dBASE, or you can make a configuration to go to an executable, or, and I'm going to show you how to do this, you can actually call up a program file when you do this. There's a lot of things that you can do from this standpoint, but the thing is we want to run that do.exe. So I could type in, if I knew the directory and I knew where it was located and everything else, I could type in my directory right here. But the simpler way is to go over here and hit the folder icon and open it up, and let's go down and find the C prompt right here underneath computer. There's my dBASE old, and if I click on the dBASE old, you'll see that I have a do.exe. If I click on the do.exe and I say open, what it's done when I do that is the program goes out and checks to see if it's a DOS program. It goes, hey, is this actually a DOS executable? If it's not a DOS executable, or it doesn't appear to be a DOS executable, we'll throw a warning up saying, hey, this does not appear to be a DOS executable, Microsoft DOS executable. And then, but we'll say, do you still want to continue? And if you want to continue, you can go right on by it and build the shortcut for it. But we do warn you that it's not. Now, for this one right now, I'm not going to put any launch parameters in at this point. I just want to go in there and I just want to run the do.exe. So I'm going to hit the next button. The next thing is regional settings. Now, dBASE shipped with various region settings and various code pages and various processes in there. If you drop down your list, you'll see that we have a ton of them in there. Most likely you're going to be a 437 or you're going to be an 850, multilingual Latin 1. I'm 437 because I'm here in the United States. You have a keyboard layout. You can put it on international or you can put it on the US one. I'm going to use the US, and each one of these will only give you the selection that's available for each one. So when you pick the code page, you're only going to get the keyboard layouts available for the code page. When you pick the keyboard layout, you're only going to get the specific ones for the keyboard layout. You're not going to have multiples in there. So it tries to help you pick which ones you want. Now again, if you're in the US, if you use code page 437, you're going to do that. If you're in Europe, most likely you're going to be using 850 as your approach to that. Once you have selected all of those things, you go ahead and hit the next button. This is another area where we've done a lot of updates and a lot of work on is the printing feature. One of the really cool things about dbDOS was we finally got it so that you could print from the product and you could print to a Windows printer. There are a lot of emulation, there's a lot of DOS emulation programs out there that will work kind of like what dbDOS does, but it doesn't give you the ability to use your printer or the printers hooked to a Windows machine. dbDOS allows us to do that, and we've added a new functionality called send raw print directly to the printer. Now what this does is it gives us a couple of things. It allows us to set a default application or a default printer for our application, so you don't have to answer the printer question every time you do a print. And it also bypasses the print driver and goes right to your printer. So if your printer understands the escape characters and all that kind of stuff, it'll just work. If it doesn't and you don't have the code page set up, you got to do a little bit of work, and there'll be a separate webinar or a separate YouTube video on how to set up printing inside of here, because the thing is that depending on the printer that you have, depending on the escape characters that you're using, depending on the print driver that you're using from DOS, there's a lot of things that can get messed up, but it is possible to get the print to look exactly like it did as long as you got a printer that can handle those escape characters, you have the right driver picked, and then you push it out to it, and it works pretty well. The raw print just basically allows you to go out there, write to it, and boom, you're going to it. There's also something called interpretive print, and this interpretive print allows us to also have a print preview, and it also allows us to change the character set being used. So sometimes that's useful, sometimes it's not, but it is one of those things that allows us to go out there and figure out, does this look what we want? How does it look? All those kind of things. So for this configuration, I'm going to go ahead and pick interpreted print for this configuration, and I'm going to hit the next button. Now there's additional mount paths, and this is where people put data and things like that. They might need to work with certain aspects of it, and they want to add additional locations on their drive, whether that be a networked map drive, whether that's just another drive, whether it's another directory where data is located inside of the product. Now, I'll talk a little bit after we get done creating this about this additional mount paths and some of the things around it, but let's go ahead and for this one, we don't have any additional mount paths. We're just going to go ahead and hit the next button. The next thing is the display option. Now, on most machines, default rendering is going to be your slowest way of doing it, and it's not going to support all the features, but it works on the most number of machines available today. Overlay is a little bit more it kind of is exactly like the default rendering, but it allows you to have full screen mode. OpenGL on most late machines. So if you're working with Vista, if you're working with Windows 7, or you're working with 2008, most likely you've got a pretty good video card in there. OpenGL is going to be your fastest and give you your best look as far as the characters and all that kind of stuff are concerned. Once you pick, if you notice default, I can't start it in full screen mode overlay. I can start in full screen mode, and OpenGL, I can also start in full screen mode. If you click start in full screen mode, if you have a 42-inch monitor, your DOS window will take up the entire 42 inches. So it will be a huge display. Now there's a way to get out of full screen mode, but keep in mind, if you're on a big display, DOS is going to take up the full screen. It's going to take up however big your machine is or however big your monitor is. That's how big it's going to be. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about this. Now I'm going to keep this as OpenGL because, and I'm not going to go into full screen mode because when you're using GoToWebinar, if I go to full screen mode, you won't be able to see the full screen. So we kind of got to keep it in this format. After I hit the next key, the next thing you want to look at is the launcher and the setup options. And what it says, hey, do you want to create a start menu shortcut? What does a start menu shortcut mean? Well, if I come over to my start button and I hit my all programs and I come down to dbDOS, if I slide down in here, it'll put it inside of the dbDOS directory if I create that shortcut. So it'll put it inside of here. The second one, by default, create a desktop shortcut, and that's going to put it somewhere on your desktop inside. And then, of course, the last one is exit dbDOS when the application closes. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that one on. Now, at this particular moment in time, I can go ahead and hit the next key. The final step in this is to test the configuration. So I can come into here and I can say, let's go ahead and test the configuration. Now, this does not write the configuration or build the configuration. This just actually sets up a temporary area that allow you to test it. So if I hit the test button, you'll see that it'll kick up, and there's my do.exe, and here in a second, it's going to pop up my dBASE product. All right, looks good. Now, when I come in here to File and I hit the exit key, and I go ahead and hit the exit key, notice it exited out of the application. It didn't take me back to the C prompt. And I after thinking about that, I might not want to do that. So I can come back here to automatically exit, deselect it, come back into next, hit the finish button again. Notice that it'll pop up, it goes through it again, and now this time when I come over here, if I hit this and I hit the exit key, it now takes me to the C prompt. So, and then at the C prompt, I can do anything I want. You know, I can do dir, do all that kind of stuff, just like what you would expect to do. And then when you're done with this, you can just type in the word exit, and it'll exit you out of there. After looking at that, I decided, you know what? I do think I want it to exit after I exit out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and click that again. So again, you can go back and forth as much as you want. Hit next. I've already tested it. I know what it does, and I'm going to say finished. When I hit finished, you'll notice that we have a dBASE 5 shortcut right here on my desktop, and on my configuration manager, we now have a dBASE 5, and this one's located in dBASE old directory inside of here. So this basically tells me everything that I need to know at that particular moment in time. So if I wanted to, let's say I decide, you know what, if I double click on this, let's go ahead and run this really quickly. And it's going to go out there and run it just like it did before in the test environment. And I look at this and I say, you know what, that's nice, but you know, I don't want it to exit out of there. I really don't want it to exit out of there at the end of that. I want it to go to the C prompt. You can come right into that configuration. You have three options down here. You have the delete configuration, which is only used when you want to get rid of something, of course. You have your export, which means that you can save this configuration off someplace. And then you have your edit. And so if you click on edit, notice it brings it right up, and I can walk through these options just like I did before. Go ahead and take off the automatic exit on the end of the application, hit finished. It updated that shortcut for me, and now I can double click on this, and let's see if it exits when we exit out of it. So I'll come back into here, and we'll come in here and we'll say exit, and it should take us to the C prompt just like it did. And now we can hit the exit key and we're done. So that gives us the first set, or the first approach to what you can do with dbDOS Configuration Manager. Now, that was how you use the wizard to build that. Now let's go ahead and build another one using the command prompt this time. And this time I'm going to go out to a different directory and I'm going to run dBASE from that directory. So I'm going to say new configuration, works the same way. And I'm going to say dbDOS or dBASE 5 command prompt, because I want to be able to go to that command prompt and be able to run all the other programs in there. And this is located in EN. This is in the EN directory. Okay. This time instead I'm going to use my advanced key. So when I go into advanced, you'll notice that it already put in my description and my configuration name. Notice that it shows up here what the icon will look like, and it also gives you an example of what the screen will look like. If I come in, I want this configuration though to be a command prompt. I don't want it to be a I don't want it to go to an executable. I want it to just go to a command prompt. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the command prompt, and notice it shows what it looks like. It looks like a DOS command. So then I need to pick out my directory. So I'm going to come in to hit the little house icon on the side. We'll go into C prompt, and I'm going to come down to my EN directory where I have another copy of dBASE located on my machine. When I do that, I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to go ahead, and from there, I can just slide down my cursor, right? I can just move this down the thing, and there's my keyboard settings again, right? There's 437, there's US, there's 103. Here's my printer config. How do I want the print to work inside of here? We're going to leave that as default. There's my additional mount paths if I want to use that. And then finally, there's my display options, and I'm going to go OpenGL, just like I would. I'm not going to go full screen because I can't do it in the GoToWebinar. And then notice that I can't really automatically exit out of it because I'm in prompts, so there'd be no way to exit out of it. So it kind of makes sense. This time, I'm also going to create a menu shortcut for that. And from this particular moment in time, I can go ahead and I can test the configuration just like I did before, or I can go ahead and save the configuration. So let's go ahead and test the configuration. So we'll come out here, and then if I do a dir, you'll notice that when I do the dir, I'm in that directory, so everything looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and exit, and then I'm going to go ahead and save configuration. Now you'll notice that I have my dBASE 5, and there's my command prompt, and it shows right here. So it's showing the exact same thing. If I come into my start menu, if I go into my all programs and I go into dbDOS, you'll notice underneath my programs, there is the command prompt. So I can run it from either location. So it gives us that capability to go back and forth between there. Now that I have that, now I can go in here and double click on my command prompt. It's going to bring me into my directory. If I do a dir.**exe, it's going to show me all the little dBASE settings. And you know what? I want to know about the dbInfo. So I can just come in here and go dbInfo, hit enter, and boom, I'm inside of my info, and I'm understanding exactly what's going on. When I'm done with that, I can hit escape. If I want to do that dir**exe, I can come back in and say, hey, you know what? I wonder what db setup, how that looks, and I can come into db setup, and I can use db setup. And this is where, when you get into advanced printer configurations, this is where you kind of have to go to make sure everything is lined up correctly. So you can come into here, you can use your mouse. Notice that since I'm in a command prompt, I'm not in an executable, it doesn't have the mouse working inside of here, but I can use my keyboard, my arrow keys on my keyboard, and then go to return to exit to DOS, and then I can go ahead and exit to DOS. So let's say that I'm now, I've done my command prompt stuff. I'm done with it. I don't want it anymore. I don't know why, but I don't want it anymore. And so now I want to delete it. Well, to delete that, all you have to do is go in here and hit the X button. When you exit, it's going to say, are you sure you want to delete all of the configuration? And I do. And so when you hit yes, disappears from your desktop. When you come over here to the start menu and slide down to your dbDOS, you'll notice that my programs now is now empty. So that kind of gives us the start. What we've done is we've transferred the files from an old machine to a new machine. We have installed the dbDOS product. We have created a configuration using the wizard to get to dBASE 5. We've created a command prompt using the single interface to get to a command prompt. We've actually deleted a shortcut both from the desktop and also from the start menu. So the next thing I want to show you is that you can now do some more advanced things with this. So let's talk about, I want to create a configuration that is going to go out there to a specific location and run an application. Okay. Now, one of the things I want to talk about before I go into the next demo is that on my C prompt, remember how we had that old dBASE data here? We had the dBASE data right here, and we had the dBASE old, right? They're separated. The recommendation from dBASE, from us, is that when you create your new location on your new box, on the new Windows box, that you basically put everything underneath your database or your dBASE directory. Now, you might have programs that need to be changed with that, but what that's going to do is give you the best capabilities as far as the searching and the paths and all that kind of stuff. So our recommendation would be, notice I have two directories here. I have the dBASE directory where I have my do command, right? I have the do command right down here. The do executable that we just did, and I have my data in dBASE data. Now, I would recommend, be my recommendation, that you would take that data and put it all underneath one directory. So if I look at dBASE old, there's my dBASE data right there underneath there. And I put all of my directories, whether that's programs, whether that's data, whatever it is, that I put it underneath there. Okay? That's just a way of doing that. Now let's go in and let's create an advanced configuration. What I want to do is create a configuration now. So we're going to call this dBASE 5, dBASE 5, and this is going to be in my big example, and we'll say this is located in my dBASE directory. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit next. I'm going to go ahead and do the executable. I'm going to go to my location. And now notice that I'm in dBASE old. I don't want to be in dBASE old, so I hit my down arrow key and I go into my dBASE directory. Notice I have the dBASE right here, and I have a dBASE.exe. I want to go ahead and select on that. And then, just so you guys can see how this works, I want to run in this process, I want to run the tmemory program inside of it. So I'm going to type in here tmemory.prg. And what this will do is when this kicks off the dBASE product, it'll also kick off the tmemory product or tmemory program located in the same directory. And then I can go ahead and hit next. I'm going to leave my regional settings alone, going to leave my printer settings alone, not going to add any additional drives at this particular moment in time. Do the OpenGL. I'm going to leave everything just like it was, and I'm just going to hit finished. There's my new shortcut. When I double click on it, this will go out to the new directory with dBASE running with tmemory, and as you can see in the background, it's running tmemory in the background. Okay, so you can see how that would work. And now when I exit out, since I didn't turn off exit on the end. Okay, so that gives us that shows us how to use that command prompt. Now I don't want to use tmemory inside of there, right? I don't want to run that program the next time, so I'm just going to go ahead and finish that out. So I just updated it so now it doesn't call tmemory. Now I want to show you my directory list for dBASE. So as you can see, inside of dBASE, I have my dBASE controls, I have my samples in here, and I also have programs. I have my area code, and I notice I have a program file right here. Now the thing is now this is where it gets a little bit more complicated, and if you've already got all the information you need from it, I understand. But I just want to show some people some of the advanced things that the dbDOS and how you use those advanced features in dbDOS using your standard programming methodology. Okay, so notice I have inside of my programs file, I have a area code program. I want to modify that because I want it, here's all my data. It's in data 1. It's in a different directory. So I want to create a program in dBASE inside my programs called area code, and I want to pick up the data in data 1. Okay, so how would you do that? How would we do that? So the first thing we want to do is we want to go into the big configuration. What this will do is this will start off dBASE just like you would normally see it. The next thing I want to do is I want to go into programs and I want to go into change directory. Notice that I have a programs file right down here, the programs directory, so I double click on it and then I hit the OK button. Now when I say file open, you'll see that I have the area code, library, and menus. Those are the specific ones that I need for this example. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK on the area code and hit OK, and that's going to open up our environment for me. Now, can't use the mouse wheel. Back then, they did not know anything about the mouse wheel. So I have to come in to where I'm setting up the directory structure. So now notice, if I come into my program, I set up my environment, and for those people who do DOS, this looks very familiar to you. And now the asterisk, of course, is the comment. And what I want to do is I want to put a line in here that basically tells it to go set my data directory to dprompt. And I'll explain why I want to do that here in a few seconds. So if I come inside of here and I would go type into here set default to, and then I want to put in a D colon. Okay, so that's basically what I want to just type in right there. Once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and hit the file, and I'm going to hit the save button so that we've saved it. Now that I'm in the programs file, I also then want to come up to my program and I want to do a compile on that. Notice that it went ahead and compiled the source inside of here of area code program, and I'm going to go ahead and close that. Now, I'm going to minimize this for a second because I want to go out and look at my programs inside of here, and I want to make sure that inside of programs we have everything. Then, once I'm back into here, I can now go ahead and create a new configuration that's going to point to my executable inside of my inside of here. Okay, so we'll go ahead, hit the run button, invalid path. Of course, it's an invalid path. It doesn't know any better right now. So we did that, and then we go ahead and close this out and minimize this. Okay. Then what I want to do is it created a dbO for me. And so now what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to come in and I want to create a configuration, a new configuration to run against that. So I'm going to come in and say new configuration, and this is going to be called area code. And the configuration description is going to be a big example. And we're going to go next. And then what we want to do inside of here is we want to run dBASE with that program file. So I'm going to go run this, and we're going to go out here to dBASE, and we're in the dBASE directory. I'm going to go dbase.executable, and then I'm going to come into here, and I'm going to put in programs area code. Okay? And then we're going to hit next. We're going to leave everything like it is. And then here's my additional mount point. I'm going to go ahead and hit the button to add additional mount points there. And I'm going to come into here. And I'm going to go into my dbDOS data 1 directory. That's where all the data is located. And I'm going to go ahead and hit the OK button. Notice that when it set it up as a D space C colon backslash. So the drive that I'm setting it up as is actually the D prompt, and so that the D prompt is basically the new drive that I'm working on at this particular moment in time. So as we can see, now we can go ahead and hit the next button. We'll keep it as OpenGL, and we'll hit the next. We'll just create that as we did before. We'll hit the thing, and we'll hit the finish button. So now we have the big area code as our big example. Now, all I should have to do is, if this worked correctly, if I did everything like I was supposed to, if I remembered all the little steps that I was supposed to do, and I'm just going to review to make sure that I did everything like I said I was supposed to. Looks like I did. So now I'm going to go out here to my area code that I just created, and I'm going to double click on it. Let's hope everything works like it's supposed to. And, oh! All right, well, let's exit out of there. Exit, exit, and then exit out of here. Exit. Okay, did something wrong. So let me just go in here to area code, comma. I've done something wrong there, so I'm just going to go back into my programs file, and I'm going to copy in my backup like I was supposed to. And let me just see here. Now, let me go back in and modify that configuration. I don't know exactly what I did wrong, but the best thing about this is that we can come in here very quickly, and we can modify our area code. Go into Programs, go into Area Codes, click OK. Flip through all the rest of these processes. Come out here, double click on my area code, and boom. All right, there we go. So I must have done something wrong on my compile. I might not have built it right. But anyways, this is how you get your programs. You can go next record, do all the things that you'd normally do inside of here, and your application is running just like you would like it before. Now again, anything that you built inside of dBASE that has an executable, a bat file, or a command file, you can go ahead and run it from inside of dbDOS. So it makes it very, very easy. The last thing I want to show you, because we're coming up to the 1 hour point on this, the last thing I want to show you is just how you import a configuration. Now notice over here on the side I have something called simple dBASE DOS right here that I've already got saved off. I already saved off one of my configurations. So I'm just going to come in here to import. We're going to go to desktop. There's my simple dBASE DOS. I'm going to open that up. It says the configuration was actually brought in and run. So notice that I have my dBASE right there. And now if I want to, it doesn't show up yet. So what I have to do is come through here, and I can double check my things. Yep, dBASE old do. Oh, cancel. Pick the wrong one. I want to do fun example right here. And click on this. So there's my fun example. Next, it's in the EN directory. I don't want it to call the area code. This one's just going to go out there. And I've got samples set up. I've got additional drives set up for this one, and I'm going to use all that. And when I hit enter, boom, there's my fun example that pops up. And so I've imported that in. I've went through, made sure all the settings were correct, and when I say finished, it automatically puts it up on the screen for me. So it doesn't put it up there until I've actually reviewed it, because usually if you're going to save that off and give it to somebody else, there's going to be some changes. So I'm going to double click on the fun example here in a second, and hopefully dBASE will pop up here in a second, and we will be on our way. There we go. So that, with all of that, kind of ends the presentation part of this. It kind of goes finishes the demo part of this. So now I'm going to go back into my presentation, and we did all of those. And now we're going to go into the thank you and question and answer. So now I'm going to open up the process to see all the different questions that people may have had. So we're going to go into here and open this up and see what all the different questions are that they may have that we need to still answer yet. I see that some of those are answered at the thing, and just to answer to Paul, yes, I did turn on the recording. So I did turn that on. So let's see here. Can't see anything. Go down through. Will there be, will the old to transfer seem less? There is any variation? Don't know. Will the old when you transfer the product, I mean, however big it is on the DOS machine is how big it's going to be when you put it onto the Windows 7. I hope that's what you were asking. If not, please ask the question again. So I'm going to go ahead and answer that one. Mike, do you have any dropouts on your audio? Not that I know of. So let's see here. Dropouts on your audio. Is there a time limit download for 1.1 onto multiple machines when purchased? No. There's no time limit in 1.1 whatsoever. When you get it, you get to have it out there. I have two printers, a dot matrix for NCR forms, inkjets, and reports. Will this work? You can go into interpreted print, and you can pick which printer you want to print to, depending on the report. If you have a configuration, if you create a configuration, if you create a configuration and you set a default printer to that configuration, let's say that I'm going to use that area code as the example application that we were talking about. If I use area code and I set that one up to have print out to a interpreted device, it's going to show me the print preview and it's going to show me the print dialog every single time, and I have to pick the printer that I want to send it to. If I pick raw and I make another one with the raw setting, and this one's going to go ahead and I'm going to define my default printer ahead of time. Let's say I'm going to pick the dot matrix printer. Then every single time I print, it'll automatically just default right out to that. So we give you the ability to not only pick which printer you want to use during the configuration, but you can also set the default per configuration. So you can have multiple configurations pointing to the same program, but have different printouts for different things and have different default printers for that. So it's pretty flexible as far as allowing you to do that process. So let's see here. I answered that one. And we'll go ahead and say that. Will thus run DOS executable COM applications in addition to dBASE. Does it communicate with serial ports? You can turn on serial ports. Depending on what you want to do with the serial ports, you might want to send us an email on that, and we can help you with that if there's a problem. We don't set up by default any one specific serial port, but if you have something where you need to set up a serial port, let us know and we can try to help you with that. From that standpoint. Okay, next one. Why did Mike create a dBASE rather than just using the only reason why I created the dBASE was because there are a lot of people out there using dBASE 3 plus for their product, and one of the things that they did back in the old days, or back in the day, was they renamed their dBASE COM to a dBASE to a Go COM, and that gave them the command prompt or the dot prompt right from the go. So they'd say Go, their program name, so it would say Go area code, and it would just kick off. So it was a shortcut back then to do it, and I was just giving homage to that shortcut. So no reason for it other than just to give a little bit of a tip of the hat to the people that use it in the older programs. Next question, if dbDOS is on DOSBox open source product, do you have plans for an Android? All I can say on that one is stay tuned. We'll see what happens in the future. Yes, the product, the VM is on open source. We've made changes to that open source product so that you can print in that. That code is available on our website, but we've also, with the configuration product and the launcher and the things to get things to work, there's a lot of additional things that we've done outside of that VM, so just keep that in mind. Next question, have you also tested the dBASE SQL mode with dbDOS, including for map drives? We've tested it with map drives. I cannot say that I have done dBASE SQL mode religiously. I went into it. I haven't done anything to it as far as going into the display. I didn't do anything. It popped up. It looked like it worked, and I didn't do anything beyond that, just to double check to see if it's out there. So network drives definitely work. If there's any issues that come up, let us know on that one, and we'll send that to all. And the next one, specifically with the runtime library, I think you're asking, can you run it with the runtime libraries? Can you create dbOs and call those dbOs? Yes, you can. And answered. So send all that. I have a dBASE application that is compiled using Clipper 5.0. Can it run under dbASE DOS? Yes, it can. We have a couple of people running with Clipper, and it runs pretty well without really any issues whatsoever. My dBASE programs and data reside on a server, and all users print through a captured print port, LPT1, LPT2. Will I need to modify my programs to print to a single LPT, or does dbDOS take care of that? That one would probably you'd need to change through LPT1 on that one. I'm pretty sure you'd have to go through LPT1 for that. And I'd have to think there might be some advanced stuff we can do in the configuration that would allow you to print to LPT2, LPT3. We could probably do it in advanced configuration. You couldn't do it through the wizard or through the standard single screen. We'd actually have to go into the configuration and actually modify the configuration by hand to get that to work. I seem to recall dbDOS 1.0 had a choice between, yeah, the big in the first in 1.0 we had a screen up there that would show dBASE 3, dBASE 4, dBASE 5. The thing that we came to the conclusion of is that when we originally wrote that program, we were thinking that there was going to be a specific configuration for a dBASE 3 file, a dBASE 4 file, or a dBASE 5 file for DOS. And that turned out not to be true. The configuration is basically pretty close to the same going across the board. So there was really no sense to have that additional selection at this time. So we went ahead and removed it to simplify the interface. So simplified the interface. That's the reason why we took care of it, is because there really wasn't. It turned out there wasn't going to be a need after we rewrote the configuration process. I'm really interested in print window. Is there a way to modify it? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. If you could rephrase that question, that would be great. Sorry about that. I don't understand the print window and how to modify it. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Can I run DOS application? Can I run any DOS application once dbDOS command prompt? Yes. So far, that's what we've been able to run a lot of things on it. That's for sure. Let's see here. I presently have bat files that run when I do my dBASE. Do I have to put an exe? No, you can use the bat. Use your bat files. We support bat files very well, and sometimes in advanced configuration, that is definitely the way to do it as they go. Can I see more printer configurations with the escape characters? No, but it directs it right to the printer. So you'll see however many printers you have defined in Windows. In other words, if you have 7 printers defined in Windows, you'll see the print for those 7 printers in the Windows dialog. Now, if you go into RAW and you set a default printer and you say that, hey, I'm always going to print out to my LaserJet, then that configuration will always print out to that LaserJet. If you don't pick a default printer, it'll ask you every single time which printer you want to go out to, and so the printer is really whatever printer you have defined in Windows. So I hope that answers that question. If not, please add it. Do you need to configure and import each individual program? Yes, if you're going to make a shortcut to that configuration, then yes, you do. If you just go out to a command prompt and you already have bat files and you already have things configured, then just go out to the bat file and call your bat files just like you normally would execute. So just create a command line shortcut, go right out there and do it that way. But if you want to have a shortcut that goes into an executable and does all the things that you want, then yeah, you're going to have to make a shortcut for each one of those as you go around. You can do it either way, whichever way is most convenient for you. So, so I'll send that one out there. Can I install dbDOS 1.1 on my XP and Windows 7 Home Edition? Sure can. You didn't see it, but when I transferred the file, when I transferred the dBASE files over to my Windows 7 product, you probably didn't see it, but I had dbDOS running on that XP box as well. And again, you're still within the license compliance. As long as you're the only one using it, you can install it on basically as many machines as you want. As long as you're the only one using it, that's fine. Does dbDOS support dbXL 1.3? I don't know that one off the top of my head. If you would like, just send that question to community and I'll get you an answer. So community@dbasellc.com, and send that one to me and I'll do the research to find out what that one is. I do not know. Does the dbDOS command prompt use RAM above 640? Yes, it does, and it can, and we have it basically maxed out for the amount of memory. It's pretty fast compared to what dbDOS 1.1 was. How would you set up a directory Y for a network? The way we do the drives right now is that we don't specifically set up like a Y directory to go out there. If you've already have a network drive called Y, and that's where your programs are automatically set up, we could go into the configuration and change that so that you could define Y. Inside of the configurations, there's some things that you can do that you could define Y correctly in there. We don't give you a programmatic way or a wizard way or a defined way to do that. So, you know, that would have to be a modification of the advanced configuration. You can do it, but you have to change the configuration, and you may need to write us an email and we can outline the steps for you for that. Any issues on file locking when running a network environment? When all users are sharing dBASE programs and data file, basically runs the same way as what it did with DOS. Those same limitations, same capabilities are there, the same as DOS. So it should, if you have it working in DOS properly, it should be working for you there. Can you map? Can you map to network drives? Yes, you can. Yes, and we'll send that to all. And did Mike create a do exe copy rather than just the original exe? Yeah, I just created a copy of that one. I just wanted to give the homage to the people out there from that standpoint. So let's see that one. Okay. Will there be a way to copy text data from the Windows? Not at this time. No way to share clipboard data yet. Will the sort command just work just as fast or better? Unknown. I don't know your configuration. I don't know your memory configuration. It should be fairly close to what it was. We try to give it as much memory and we try to optimize it as much as we can to make sure that it runs as fast as possible. But there's no way I can tell you off the top of my head whether or not it would be as fast or not. Is dbDOS Y2 compliant and does it recognize February 29? dbDOS remember, dbDOS does not care about any of the dBASE programs it's running. If dBASE is not year 2000 compliant, dbDOS has nothing to do with that. dbDOS only allows you to run your application. So dbDOS is not doesn't need to be Y2K aware. dBASE and all the limitations of dBASE need to be aware of that. So if your copy of dBASE is Y2K available, then yes, it is. If it's not, then no, it's not. So just keep that in mind. dbDOS does not. dbDOS allows you to run your DOS applications. It doesn't change your applications or modify them or enhance them in any way. It just allows you to run them. So hopefully that answers the question on that one. I was disconnected and I'm connected again now. Can you repeat the differences between product using a virtual machine? I think what you were asking about is the XP. Again, the only difference between it is if you're going to use, let's say, Windows 7 Ultimate Edition, you're going to have an XP. You're going to have an XP virtual machine on there using the Microsoft Hyper-V virtual machine for XP. It's just bigger. It's just a lot bigger. It takes up a lot more resources. dbDOS is much smaller, and you only get that XP edition if you buy the Pro and also or the Ultimate, which is usually about $100 more than the Home edition. So there you go. What's the advantages of this product over dbDOS? Printing and ease of use. And there's changes. Again, the code is available on our website, but there's a lot of work that we did to make it so it would work correctly. Looks like you updated dBASE. Looks like the updated dBASE looks and operates the same. Again, dbDOS is only the ability to run it and configure the old dBASE for DOS programs. So dBASE for DOS is going to still look like dBASE for DOS as it did in the old days because it is dBASE for DOS. It is literally taken off the CD. So it looks exactly like that. Will dbDOS also run applications compiled with Clipper 87 rather than dBASE 4? We've had people, it should. Each program is different, but we've had various people using Clipper, and it seems to work fine. So if it doesn't work, let us know, and we'll work with you to try to figure out what we have to do to get it to work. How do we access NetWare queues? Go ahead and send that. Send me an email. At the end of this webinar, there'll be a survey that'll pop up and say, "Hey, if you have additional questions, here, put those questions in, and also give us your email address, and we'll reach back out to you about that." So there's ones that we'll look at that. Can you access remotely via internet? Don't know what that one means. Sorry. Don't know if you mean can you access the webinar or can you access I'm not exactly sure. I had a trouble with memory overflow whenever I tried to open more than one large database with indexes, tried to re-index those, got it out of memory. Will this happen in dbDOS? If you're getting that, I don't know what machine you are getting that on, or that. The only thing I can tell you is give it a try, and we have a 15-day money-back guarantee. If you're having problems, we'll try to help you see if there's any other additional configurations that we can do to help you with that. But I don't know. The only thing I can really tell you is give it a try. Each database and index and all that kind of stuff is dependent on it. If you're getting that outside of DOS, or you're getting that outside of dbDOS, and you're getting that in a DOS environment already, I don't know. It would depend. There's a lot of variables on that one, so it could depend on a lot of different things. I have drives addressed in my BAT file run. Also necessary to include these in additional mount path. Yes, that would be correct. And you want them to match. So you make sure that that's correct as well. What's the difference between product using a virtual machine? I think this product and using a virtual machine. It depends on which virtual machine you're using. If you have a solution, this is for people who don't have a solution, but we believe that the install, setup, configuration, printing, and all that stuff that we've done makes it really, really easy. A lot of people have problems printing because there's some differences in dBASE, the old dBASE programs, the way they printed. So if you have a working solution, that's great. I think ours is pretty small, takes up very little memory, and does a really good job. But if you have a solution, then you might want to continue with that solution. on that. So, how do you set up the Y drive on a network? I already answered that one. Under dbDOS 4, is there a dbDOS window the same size using it when running the DOS window? You can either do full screen, or maybe in the future we're looking at ways of making that window expandable, maybe in an update sometime in the future. We still don't have that working the way we like it yet. It's still a little kludgy. So, but keep your eyes open. Again, if you're an owner of dbDOS 1.0 or 1.1, if there's any updates or things like that, to the base product, you'll definitely get those as we go out there with it. So full screen right now is probably the only option you have. And if you have a 42-inch monitor, I feel sorry for you on that one. Can you run Crystal reports from within a dBASE program? I don't know if there was a Crystal reports for DOS off the top of my head. This, again, remember, this is only running DOS programs and dBASE for DOS, at this time, so I'm not sure that that's a question that I can answer. If there's more to it, please let me know. I don't know that one off the top of my head. How do you access network queues? Again, well, I think we're going to have to do we'll have to do a YouTube video on that to show how to do that, because a couple of people have asked how to do that, and we're going to have to make sure everything is in a nice step-by-step approach to doing that. So I'll double check on that one. Check YouTube later for answers. Okay, helps if I spell correctly. The print window option, referring to interpretive print option, can the width of the window be modified in the config file? Again, that's just a print preview in the interpretive print. I think it is sizable if I remember correctly. But it is not a part of the configuration at this time, so I don't think that that's that can be modified inside of there. How do you set up? Okay, we've already answered that one. Keep on going down here, and let's see here. Okay, dbDOS available on CD or only download? dbDOS is available for download instantly and CD. So you can have it both ways. It is an additional cost, $19.95, for the CD and printed manuals. Is there? Let's see here. Is there a plan for Visual dBASE to run? Stay tuned. We'll see. We've been getting a couple of people asking us for a solution for Visual dBASE. We'll see what we can find out in the future and see if we can do. dbXL was a version of Argo dBASE clone. Yep. WordTech systems. Yep. And I would imagine it would work. Most DOS programs work, so give it a try. I don't have a way of testing Argo. I don't have Argo, so I can't give you a good answer. Remember, 15-day money-back guarantee. Under DOS dBASE 4, is there dBASE same window? We already answered that one above. And let's see, my desktop directory, I keep program files and the data in the Trinity, in the catalog Trinity, relocate everything under dBASE. It would probably be best to move everything underneath the dBASE directory. Move everything underneath the dBASE directory. Everything under the dBASE directory. And that would probably be the simplest way to get everything working. Are there plans to extend dBASE DOS product? No. No plans to do the dBASE DOS programs or extend it in any way. We're just giving you a way to do it. Could I close out off-site over internet? Don't know what that. I don't understand the question. Sorry. On that one, can I start multiple instances of dbDOS and run them at the same time on the same computer? Absolutely. Most definitely. And I do that all the time, actually, when doing some stuff. Any tool added for correcting corrupted files? No. Sorry about that. We don't have anything for that. We're just making the ability. We are using virtual dBASE. Is dbDOS compatible? I'm not familiar with virtual dBASE. I don't even know what that is, so I can't tell you if it's compatible or not. So that one, I'm sorry, I can't answer that one. I purchased the CD and book under 1.0. Please send us an email and let us know about the CD and the book and that. So send us an email on that at the end. Just tell us the CD and the book and put your email address in there, and then we'll get back to you on that. So that one, and then it appears that all dbDOS is just a utility for creating dbDOS shortcuts. Can I use a DOS PIF editor on the created? No. No, you can't. But it's not a PIF. Remember, this is a Windows shortcut in Windows 7. And so this is not a PIF. This is not a Windows PIF that actually gets executed. This is a Windows 7. Shortcut and menu shortcut inside the start menu. So this doesn't have anything really to do with the PIF. You can right mouse click on the shortcut and you can set various things on the right mouse click and things like that, but it's just a shortcut as defined by Windows. When will 2.0 be available? Unknown. But I would believe that there will be additional features and functionality available for 1.1 as we go forward. But right now, 2.0, there is a plan for 2.0, and yes, I do know that plan, and yes, I do have a date when I think that 2.0 will be released. But as far as I can relate to you guys, that is unknown at this particular time. Let's see. Virtual dBASE does not work with Visual dBASE. Okay. I will just leave that one. I don't know anything about Virtual dBASE, so I can't really answer any questions on that. So hopefully, now that we've went through this whole process and we've answered a lot of questions inside of there and we got things going on, hopefully this was a good use of your time. One of the first things you're going to get when you exit out of this presentation is you're going to get a survey that basically asks you to rank, was this a good use of your time? If there was any additional things that we didn't answer or anything like that, please fill that in, put in your email address or your contact information so that we can get a hold of you or communicate with you about the questions that you may have. Also in there is if you want to see any additional webinars on anything, whether anything to do with dBASE, dQuery, dbDOS, let us know and we'll try to put something together for you so we can share the information so you guys are better armed to go out there and make great solutions with the dBASE products. From that standpoint, I think we are at the end of it. Again, I say thank you to everybody who came on board, and hopefully this was a good use of your time, and hopefully you learned something today.
Michael, one thing before we leave.
Yes.
Just wanted to let everyone know there isn't a trial for dbDOS. Instead, we offer a 15-day money-back guarantee, so they can get it, and most people know within 30 minutes of getting the product downloaded and installing it whether it works for them. And if it doesn't, give us a call, send us an email, and we'll help you out trying to get your configuration to work.
Good reminder. Thank you, Paul. So with that, guys, I want to say thank you to everybody, and I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks a lot for coming to the webinar. And talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.